Welcome back, ghouls and goblins. I hope you're all having a magical day. Thank you for taking the time to support the channel. March of Machines is releasing into Arena April 18th. That's just a couple of weeks away, which means it's spoiler season, baby. Digesting all of the new cards as they're released. Looking for the bangers, right? Doing our top 10 lists, starting to do the limited archetypes, as well as build some new brews. So buckle up, get ready, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to support. You can also become a YouTube member, Twitch supporter, or Patreon. Today we'll be overviewing the first batch of spoilers. I think we've got 100 plus cards to get through. We have a new card type to talk about. We have new mechanics as well, which is really, really exciting. So let's just get right into it. Here we are using mythicspoilers.com for all of our spoiler needs. Thank you so much for the quick upload. So just starting in with March 30th, that's today. We're about halfway through the day, so I do suspect some more cards will be spoiled throughout the remainder of today. But first and foremost, let's jump right into it. For 6 mana within blue, 5 generic, 1 blue source here, at instant speed with Convoke, a returning mechanic to Arena, allowing you to tap your creatures for mana, right? Mites finally have a use that's not quite as toxic, So, going wide with your creatures to cast heavy spells is going to be a common modality within the set. So this 6 mana spell is reduced through the Convoke, still at instant speed. You may cast sorcery spells this turn as though they've had flash. And whenever you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell twice, and you may choose new targets for the copy. I believe that this is a little expensive. Blue is not your typical deck to be going wide with creatures to capitalize on the Convoke. However, things change, and I definitely think that this is going to be formidable. A, because you can reduce the cost of it down to 1. B, it's making your your sorcery spells now have flash. That's incredible as well. And then copying that spell, I think, is pretty goofy also. So, a lot of value here. It's going to be really nice for those mid-range decks who can get it off. But let's be honest, when doesn't a mid-range deck get off? All right, Invasion of Moog for 4 mana. This is a new card type. Battle, also known as sieges. Think of them as enchantments or planeswalkers, if you will. As it enters the battlefield, choose an opponent to protect it. You and others can attack it. When it's defeated, exile it, and then cast it transformed, right? So we will be casting it, obviously, because it's going to be in our deck, playing it, choosing our opponent to protect it, and now it is our job to destroy it. And now it has counters on it, siege counters, I think we can refer to them as. 5 for this card. Once you have destroyed it, it comes in transformed on your board state, obviously, because you're looking to get that value. So, when it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Not too shabby. And then, obviously, we would want to attack and destroy the siege or battle to have the Bloom Wielder Dryads come into play as a 3/3 or 2. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It's an uncommon card. What do you expect? Just to outline how the battle sieges work for everybody, as we will be seeing, I believe, 36 of them in this set, which is crazy. Kind of feels a little bit like War of the Spark was with Planeswalkers, where there is like an excess of them. The Ravenous Sailback for 5 mana. This is a 3/4 Dinosaur, 4 generic, 1 green, for those of you just listening. When it enters the battlefield, choose one. It's going to gain haste until the end of turn, or destroy target artifact or enchantment, which I don't mind. I mean, it's a little expensive, sure, 5 mana, but in limited, haste attack, removal of artifact enchantment with a decent body, 3/4. You know, it's all right, whatever. Nothing to put in a top 10, but we don't mind it. StreetWise Negotiator. This kind of feels like Streets of Capenna. For 2 mana, a 0/2 with backup 1. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If that's another creature, right? A different creature than the Negotiator, it's going to gain the following ability until end of turn, right? So backup is going to be a mechanic that we see within this set, and it reads the exact same way every time, right? It will have a number with it, backup 1, backup 2, backup 3. You'll distribute that many counters equal to the backup number onto a creature that you control. If it was a different creature than the one with the ability that is triggering it, you're going to gain a little extra. And in this case, this creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, right? So, this creature is still going to have it, but that other creature can now gain it as well, which is pretty cool, right? So we kind of are looking at a bit of a defender deck here, potentially. I mean, it could work. It could work. Moving on, for 6 mana, 4 generic, 2 blue, Elegant Denial, instant speed with Convoke, allowing us again to tap creatures to reduce the generic mana. We get to choose one or both. Counter target spell, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. We just need to find some blue creatures and we're good to go. Maybe it's like an Izzet deck that utilizes the Convoke within blue. Simic potentially as well. I just have a hard time conceptualizing a mono blue Convoke deck, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. You know, there's a lot of cards to still look at here. Into the Fire will be our next card for 3 mana, 2 generic, 1 red at sorcery speed. Now, this is a rare card, so it's worth a little bit of our attention. No, I mean, let's be honest. In a new set, they're all worth our attention. Choosing 1, dealing 2 damage to each creature, planeswalker, and battle. Huh. That's not too bad. Hitting those battles is something that in the festivities not going to do. Mind you, this is a lot more expensive than that. However, you do get the secondary casting mode, which is nice for versatility's sake, if you will. Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library and then draw that many cards +1, which isn't bad. Discard 2-3 lands, get 4-5 lands back. Stop it. You know how Arena works. Then we'll move into March 29th. Joyful Storm Sculptor for 5 mana. This is a 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 red elemental creature tokens. So, I mean, that's not bad. Going to be really nice and limited. 3 bodies within 1 card. And whenever you cast a spell that has Convoke, it will deal 1 damage to each opponent and each battle that they will protect. So, not bad. We're really going to have to see how many Convoke cards there are. Will you be able to run, and we were actually just talking about this, running it in Izzet, blue and red, because then we get some creatures, right? Some wizards, some shamans, if you will. So maybe that's going to be a really nice limited archetype. Moving on now to the Hoarding Broodlord. This is 8 mana. 3 black or swamps and 5 generic. Thankfully, it does have Convoke, right? So we can reduce it by 5 down to 3. It's a 7/6 with flying, and when the Broodlord enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may play it. That's pretty good. And spells you cast from exile will also have Convoke, which is pretty cool. So this dragon can be reduced down to 3. And then you can grab another super expensive spell in your hand and give it Convoke. Not in your hand, but to exile, which if you can cast from exile is basically in your hand. And giving it Convoke too, which is, this might be a problem. We'll have to wait and see though. It is expensive and you're going to need lots of creatures. So time will tell. Fairgrounds Trumpeter for 3 mana, 2 generic, 1 green, a common creature to 2/2. elephant. Love it to see it, right? At the beginning of each end step, if a +1/+1 counter was put on a permanent under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on the trumpeter as well. Not too shabby. There's obviously going to be a +1/+1 counters deck, most likely within Selesnya, green and white. A pretty good limited card. I don't necessarily see this getting into any standard decks, potentially a budget build, but, Runes Recluse for 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 green, a 1/1 creature spider with reach and death touch. You can pay for 3 generic, 1 green at instant speed to put a +1/+1 counter on the Recluse. That's actually not too bad. Mana sinks are nice, right? You just dump 4 mana into this at a time. Obviously, it's probably not the most effective way to spend 4 mana, but if you have nothing else to do, why not? And again, this +1/+1 counter could potentially trigger other things like this elephant, and we've seen others as well, right? So it's going to be these little synergies that we're looking for within the limited archetypes, within the budget decks. Seer of Stolen Sight, 3 mana, 2/3 Phyrexian Warlock with Menace. It is 2 generic, 1 black. Whenever 1 or more artifacts and or creatures you control are put into the graveyard from the battlefield, surveil 1. Again, probably a decent, uncommon budget card. I don't know if we'll have enough artifact sacrifice. I'm thinking that the repeatable surveil 1 would be nice with like an Anvil sack deck, right? Just making our next draw consistent, making sure it's something that we want. It's a 2/3 with Menace, which isn't the worst. It's a Phyrexian, which we will take advantage of within the upcoming set. It's not a draw. Obviously, if we want to strictly compare it against another uncommon, there's the Morbid Opportunist, which just gives you draws, and that's going to be probably better than Surveil 1 unless you're looking to fill your grave for a reason. A Reanimator deck, I don't know. Not the worst, not the best, it's there. Phyrexian Pegasus for 3, 2/2 with flying, 2 generic, 1 white. When it attacks another target attacking creature without flying, gains flying until the end of turn. This is always really good and limited, giving things flying. Any form of evasion is nice, which is why we kind of like, that Stolen Sight just because of the menace. Zephyr Winder for 2 mana, a 1 generic, 1 blue, 2/1 with flying. A creature elemental, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, untap up to 1 target creature. Giving you another defender is good value. 2/1 with flying for 2 is fine. We really do need to see some flying lords, though. We've not seen really any good Azorius flyer decks in some time. The Seed Pod Caretaker for 3 mana, 2/2 creature, Phyrexian Cleric, 2 generic, 1 white source. This is an uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Put +1/+1 counter on target artifact or creature you control. Selesnya +1 counters. Okay, cool. Transform target Incubator Token that you control. So for those of you who don't know, Incubator Tokens are 0/0s. They will have a number to them, and they'll get +1/+1 counters on them when you transform them. We will explain this more as we go because there's lots of cards that reference this, and then we can finally see what the token looks like. So a very powerful mechanic, I believe, the Incubator Token. So we'll learn more here. Within the essence of Orthodoxy, 5 mana, 3 generic, double plains or white as a creature Phyrexian, a 3/3 with flying. Whenever it or another Phyrexian enters the battlefield under your control, incubate 2. So this will refer to creating an Incubator Token with 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and then we can pay 2 to transform it from an artifact into an artifact creature, a 0/0. Those 2 +1/+1 counters transfer over. So really nice way to create tokens, which is cool because Mondrak, yeah, The Referee Squad for 3. This Orthodoxy was a rare as well. I think I forgot to mention that. Onto the Referee Squad now. 2 generic, 1 blue as an uncommon creature. Homunculus. 2 power, 2 toughness with Convoke. Again, reducing that generic mana cost for each creature that you tap. With Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature and opponent controls and put a stun counter on it, which will have it remain tap during their untap phase as they remove that stun counter. Big heads up, you can proliferate stun counters. Axguard Artisan, which has actually made my top 10. This is a banger, baby, for 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 red, 2 power, 1 toughness, creature, dwarf, artificer, uncommon. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on the Axguard Artisan for the first time each turn, create a treasure token. Yes. Turn 1, Kumano. Turn 2, Axguard. Make a treasure. Turn 3, 4-drop. Let's go. And that 4-drop would be your Thundering Raiju, which would apply another +1 counter and a treasure. So you can see how cool this card is. Moving on, for the Interdisciplinary Mascot. Oh my lord, that's a long word. Interdisciplinary? My lord, please have mercy on me, chat. 8 mana as a 5/5 elemental fractal. This is 6 generic, double blue with Convoke. It will also have Ward 3. Uh-oh. Those are powerful. Gesundheit, right? Okay. Whenever the Interdisciplinary Mascot enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest in the bottom of your library in random order. It's a 5/5. That's a big boy. This is a rare card as well. Convoke. Sure, you'd be convoking 6 things to have it be played for 2. Enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, the rest in the bottom of your library in random order. I just cannot believe that this is ever going to be playable. You know, sometimes I get things incredibly wrong during the spoiler season, but that doesn't keep me from pointing things out. I like to do it still, right? To see if I was right into the future. It's fun for me. You know, it just seems like a lot. I like the draw. The ward's fine. It doesn't have flying. It doesn't have trample. It only draws you 1 card. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have high hopes for that. The Injector Crocodillies for 6 mana, 4 generic, double black or swamp source as a common card. 5 power, 5 toughness. When it dies, incubate 3. Create that 0/0 with 3 tokens on it that you can pay 2 to transform into 0/0. Swamp cycling for 2, so we get it to pay 2 to discard it. Searching for a swamp, putting it into our hand, then shuffling, which is actually pretty good. We don't mind it. We have Terror of Toshawi. 4 mana, 4 toughness, 3 strength. 4 strength, 3 toughness. This is a rare card. 2 generic, double black source or swamp. A Phyrexian Ogre with Death Touch, and whenever it attacks, you may pay 4 when you do return target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. If it's a Phyrexian, and it will be, a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. I honestly don't mind this. I think it's pretty good. The Death Touch makes it a lot better because, you know, they're de-incentivized to block it. If they have like a good creature they don't want to lose, right? Because it's going to kill it. It also makes a great blocker. And then you can bring creatures back too. I don't mind. You know, if it would have been like a 4/5, it would have been a lot cooler, but we'll take what we can get. I also love the art. Feels very much like a Kamigawa Neon Dynasty card to me. We have the Zalfirin Lancer for 3. 2 generic, 1 white source. It is a 3 power, 3 toughness human knight. Whenever another knight enters the battlefield under your control, the Lancer receives +1/+1 and gains vigilance until the end of turn as a uncommon card. It's been a long time since we had Knight Tribal. I think this is a pretty cool prelude potentially into that within the future. The Gore Claw for 6 mana, 4 generic, 2 green, or forest on top of it as a legendary creature, human bear, that is a rare. 6 power, 5 toughness with trample. Other creatures you control will also have trample. And whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It gains haste until the end of turn. Very expensive, but very cool. You know, we were using Kodama within the Elf deck. I think we could use Goreclaw now. Just to give everybody trample. Very, very nice. Maybe even use them both. I know my head gets in the way on this right card here, but there it is. Get your bear on, baby. Let's go. Ornathon, Hero of Lavabrink for 4 mana, 3 generic, 1 red source or mountain. Legendary creature, human soldier as a rare, 3 power, 3 toughness. Pay 2, 1 generic, 1 red, tapping it as well. Creating a token that's a copy of another target creature that you control. It gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. However, you can only activate this at sorcery speed, which is nice. So it gets rid of that end step shenanigans with the copies. We can also pay 9, oh my lord, 6 generic, triple red, tapping it, creating 5 tokens that are a copy of another target creature you control. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step, activating this also only at sorcery speed. That's fairly ridiculous. The Crag Smasher Yeti for 6 mana, 4 generic, double red or mountain as a creature Yeti, an common card, 4 power, 2 toughness with mountain cycling 2. Again, discarding it for 2 mana, searching for a mountain into hand, then shuffling. Back up 2. When it enters play, put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature that you control. If it was not the Yeti, that creature will also gain trample. BEA Beautiful, the Yeti has trample organically. Very expensive. Moving on, we have a Battle Siege, Invasion of Dominaria for 3 mana as an uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life and draw a card. It will have 5 siege counters on it. That's a lot of damage to do. However, if you're able to remove it, it will transform into Sierra Faithkeeper, a 4/4 creature angel with flying and vigilance. We have the Grafted Butcher for 2 mana, a creature, Phyrexian Samurai rare, 1 generic, 1 black, 2 power, 2 toughness. When it enters the battlefield, Phyrexians you control gain menace until the end of turn. That is not bad. Other Phyrexians you control will also get +1/+1. A Phyrexian Lord? You have my attention. We can pay 4, sacrificing an artifact or creature, returning the Butcher from your graveyard to the battlefield at sorcery speed. Maybe we can give soldiers a run for their money. Now, one of my favorite cards that I've seen this set so far, the Chrome Host Seed Shark, 3 mana, 2 generic, 1 blue, 2 power, 4 toughness, creature, Phyrexian Shark. Okay, you have my attention already. It's going to have flying as well, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value. You'll be creating a token with X +1/+1 counters on it. Pay 2, have that token now become a creature. These tokens can be utilized through Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh, reducing your first artifact activation by 2. So they're free. Shh, don't tell anyone. I love the shark. Everyone's going to love this shark. What's not to love? Moving on to the Voldaren Thrill Seeker for 3 mana. 2 generic, 1 red, 1 power, 1 toughness, creature, vampire, warrior. The warrior's fairly important, so is the vampire. Backup 2, when it enters play, put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature. If it was another creature, that creature will gain, pay 1, sacrifice this creature. It deals damage equal to its power to any target. That's aggressive. I like it. What I like even more than that, and this line of cards, these 4 rares are all fairly ridiculous. Whoops. The Baral and Kari Zev, 3 mana, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 red. Is it colored? Legendary creature human. That is a rare. 2 power, 4 toughness with first strike and menace. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, you may cast a spell with lesser mana value that shares a card type with it from your hand without paying its mana cost. If you don't, create First Mate, Ragavan, a legendary 2/1 red monkey pirate creature token. It gains haste until the end of turn. Oh my god. 3 mana, 2/4, first strike menace. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, on your turn, also on your opponent's turn, copy a spell with lesser mana value from your hand for free, or whatever, cast it for free. That is ridiculous. Oh my lord. Moving on. I like it. I made the top 10 for sure, you know. Rankel and Toran, an interesting combo. Rakdos colors for 5 mana. Woohoof. 1 generic, double swamp, double mountain. Legendary creature, fairy dwarf that is rare. It has first strike, flying, and haste as a 3 powered 4 toughness. When it deals combat damage to a player or battle, choose any number. Each player creates a treasure token. Each player sacrifices a creature. If a source you control would deal damage to a player or battle this turn, it deals that much +2 instead. I like it. This is a good way to kill your own battles, I guess. Really cool card. A little expensive, but what are you going to do? Moving on, we have a very interesting card here. The Invasion of Tarkir. 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 red as a battle siege that is mythic. Whenever we see a mythic card with such low mana value, we have to pay attention. It has 5 siege counters. When it enters the battlefield, reveal any number of dragon cards from your hand, and when you do, deal X damage +2 to any other target, where X is the number of cards revealed this way. It is other targets, so you can't deal that damage directly to your own siege, which would be very cool. However, very nice removal, right? So it's like turn 1, Swift Spear, turn 2, Siege, and reveal a bunch of dragons. Furthermore, once we destroy it, we have the Defiant Thundermaw, a 4/4 dragon with flying and trample. Whenever a dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage to any target. I'll allow it. I like dragon cards. Dragon and angel cards, you know, I love. Moving on, Zurgo and Ojantai. Pardon my pronunciation. Oh, Lord. 5 mana, 2 generic, 1 blue, 1 red, 1 white. A Jezekai legendary creature, Orc Dragon that is mythic, with flying and haste. It is a 4 powered 4 toughness creature as well. It has hexproof as long as it's entered the battlefield this turn. And whenever 1 or more dragons you control deal combat damage to a player or battle, look at the top 3 cards of your library and put 1 of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, and you may return 1 of those dragons to its owner's hand. This card is phenomenal. You will be bouncing itself most times back to your hand because that will make sure that it always has hexproof because you'll be playing it. It has haste, right? So flying, haste, hit for 4, look at the top 4, draw a card. Look at the top 3, draw a card, and, bounce it back. Rinse and repeat. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you trying to single target me? You can't do that. Were you trying to sorcery speed field wipe me, Mr. Farewell, Mr. Depopulate? No, I don't think so. So just like get out of here. Sheoldred's Edict is still going to get us, but just have another creature on the side, right? I really like this card. I think it's very good value. You know, that draw that can trigger multiple times. I like it. It just needs lifelink, you know? If this thing had lifelink, we'd be all set. Moving on, the Monastery Mentor for 3 mana, 2 generic, 1 white as a human monk creature with 2 power and 2 toughness. It will have prowess, cast a non-creature spell. It gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white monk creature token that will also have prowess. I like it quite a bit. Boros aggro, maybe even mono white. We'll see. Moving on to our next Battle Siege, the Invasion of Icyria for 2 mana plus X. That will be a double green or forest. 6 siege counters. Whenever Invasion of Icyria enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a non-human creature card with mana value X or less. Put it into the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle. You know, we don't mind. We like it. Just get something in play. And then, of course, 6 siege counters is quite a bit. However, we're going to get a real fatty on the back end here. This is a Zilthoria, Apex of Icyria, an 8/8 legendary creature dinosaur with reach. And for each non-human you control, you may have that target assign its combat damage as though it were not blocked, which is ridiculous. Just hitting for lethal. That was a similar, like the box topper of Icyria, if you will. Got to get your Godzilla on. Another top 10 card here, I believe. The Invasion of Ravnica for 5 generic mana, 4 siege counters as a battle. Whenever Invasion of Ravnica enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls that isn't exactly 2 colors. It can be 0 colors, it can be 1 color, it can be 3 colors, 4 colors, 5 colors, whatever, right? Great. Get out if you're at Raxa. Get out if you're everything else, just not 2 color things, whatever. And then, of course, you destroy it with the removal of the 4 siege counters. The Guild Pact Paragon as a 5/5 artifact creature construct. Whenever you cast a spell that is exactly 2 colors, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a card that's exactly 2 colors from among them, put it into your hand, and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random color, random order. In a random color. I love it. I think that this card is phenomenal. Really nice front end value, non-land permanent. So getting anything, many of their planeswalkers won't be 2 colors. It's pretty decent. I like it. And then you get the nice creature that can help you draw. It's good. It's good. Moving on to something that I still like, but I don't think is quite as convenient to put in any deck. Like obviously that colorless removal that can help you. Yeah, it's just good, right? Invasion of Tolvalda for 5 mana, 3 generic, 1 plains, 1 swamp, 5 siege counters as a rare battle. When it enters the battlefield, return target non-battle permanent from your graveyard to the battlefield. I mean, we love reanimator spells, right? And then the Broken Sky, as an enchantment, will create tokens at the beginning of your end step. You get a 1/1 spirit that's black and white with flying, and all of your tokens will get +1/+0 in lifelink. Sure, whatever. It's good, I guess. I'm envisioning like wedding announcements that you utilize a Rite of Oblivion to sacrifice and kill their thing, exile it, and then you kind of use this to bring the festivities or the wedding back, right? Getting even more tokens. You've got a Mondrax, so you're making 1 billion tokens, and then they get buffed up with +1 lifelink. I mean, we always have a vision for the cards, but obviously that's a much more specific deck build than this Paragon goes anywhere and is good anywhere. The Invasion of Fiora, 6 mana, 4 generic, double black source, a battle siege with 4 siege counters on it. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1 or both. Destroy all legendary creatures. Destroy all non-legendary creatures. Transforming into Marchisia. What? Okay, Marchisia. Resolute Monarch, a 3-powered, 6 toughness. It is a sick toughness creature. A legendary human noble with menace and death touch. Whenever the monarch attacks, remove all counters from up to 1 target. Permanent, goodbye planeswalker, goodbye battle or siege counters, right? At the beginning of your upkeep, if you haven't dealt combat damage, haven't been dealt combat damage since your last turn, draw a card and lose 1 life, right? So that's probably going to force them into attacking into your 3/6 death touch, which is great. Really not that bad. And I like how you can like turbo transform your battles. You can also kind of hit their planeswalkers nicely. The Transcendent Message for 4 blue skis. That's a quad islands cast with X on the top end as well. At instant speed as a rare with Convoke, thankfully, to draw X cards. Interesting. It's pretty cool. If you're convoking, it's better than the silver scrutiny, I guess. But without the convoke, maybe the scrutiny is better. Sword of Once and Future for 3 generic mana as an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has protection from blue and black, which is pretty good. Dimir, like, that's who you want protection from mostly. Black, 10 times out of 10. And then blue's not a bad, black and red would be good. Black and blue is really good. I love it. When equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, Surveil 2. And then you may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. Equipped for 2. I like it. I mean, that's a little bit better than protection from red and green. Right? Guardian of Hierophar, 3 mana, 2 generic, 1 plains, as a 3-power, 3 toughness creature angel with flying. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 other target creature or artifact that you control. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, which I guess would be your own unless you're giving your creatures flash somehow. Pretty cool. We like the angels, right? Oh my lord. This is not even a top 10 card. This is like a top 1 card, most likely. Top 2, because it's Jin-Gitaxias is here as well. And I'm curious if we'll see other no-name Praetors, because they are looking to be like the greatest cards I've ever seen. Ellis Norn, 4 mana, 2 generic, double white, as a mythic 3-power, 5 toughness legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor with vigilance. Whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller will lose 2 life unless they pay 1. That is such a good tax, it's not even funny. Furthermore, we can pay 3 to sacrifice 3 other creatures, exiling Ellis Norn, returning it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control at sorcery speed. Sacrificing 3 creatures is a risk, but if you have the might, you can protect yourself. And then, the Argent Etchings will be the enchantment saga that we receive on its first lore trigger. Incubate 2 5 times. Okay. And then immediately transform all of those into creatures. What? Furthermore, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain double strike until the end of turn. That's laughable. Stop it. Then destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and Phyrexians. Exile the etchings and return it to the battlefield. Ellis Norn face up. Oh my god. Whatever, that is, get ready. Buckle up, children. Glissa, Herald of Predication for 5 mana. 3 generic within Golgari colors, an additional black and green on the side of that generic as a 3-powered 5 toughness legendary creature Phyrexian zombie elf that is rare. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose 1. Incubate 2 twice. Again, that's great. Transform all incubated tokens you control. Or finally, Phyrexians you control gain first strike and death touch until the end of turn. This is a very nice engine. It does it all, right? We love it. Polukranos Reborn for 3 mana. Okay. It's a 4/5. What? With reach? Stop it. And then we can pay 7, 6 generic, 1 Phyrexian white. Don't even have to run white. We can just pay 2 life or, run dual lands. That's easy. Transforming it into the Engine of Ruin. This is a 6/6 with lifelink and reach. Whenever the Engine of Ruin or another non-token Hydra you control dies, create a 3/3 green Hydra and a 3/3 green. The first Hydra will have reach and the second Hydra will have lifelink. So 2 3/3 Hydras, one with reach, one with lifelink. This is just a good card. I don't care if you run it in a Hydra deck or not. Run it in your mono green deck. It's a 4/5 that transforms into a 6/6. Let's frickin' go. If you have other Hydras, great. It's going to work pretty cool with that as well, I guess. This card is so pushed, it's not even funny. Damn, dude. The Realm Breaker Invasion Tree. Very cool. This is a card that we've seen in Call Time that would bring all of the gods into play. And now we're actually going to get to bring all the Phyrexians into play, or the Praetors. Pay 2, tap it. Target opponent mills 3 cards. Then we get to put a land card from their graveyard into the battlefield tapped under our control. Okay, I like that already. It gains if this land would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else, so they can't gain control of it. Furthermore, we can pay 10 with the tap, which is a little extensive. I get it. Sacrificing the invasion tree, searching our library for any number of Praetor cards, putting them all into the battlefield and then shuffling, which is probably going to win you the game, considering we're running with Ellis Norn, Jin-Gitaxias, Mond, it just goes on and on. The Praetors within, it's almost too much. Come on. Moving on. Borb Oris Gomors. Lord have mercy. How do you even say this word? Borbori Gomors and Flip. 5 mana, 2 generic within Temur colors, so an additional green, blue, and red source. As a 6-powered, 5 toughness legendary creature, Cyclops Homunculus. That is a mythic. Whenever Borigormus enters the battlefield with Flip or attacks, draw a card, then discard any number of cards, of land cards, mind you, and then whenever you discard one or more land cards this way, deal twice that much damage to target creature. So you're going to have a lot of land. We can pay 2 at instant speed to put it on the third top from our library. Interesting. So we'd want a way to bring lands from the graveyard back into our hand to reactivate this, I guess. It seems like a lot. I'm sure this is going to do something somewhere, but my brain is simply too smooth to comprehend its, ability. Moving on to something I probably can comprehend. Stroke of Flames for 4 mana, 2 generic, double red source at an instant speed uncommon spell with Convoke, which is pretty cool. Dealing 4 damage to any target. I'd like to see, like a Boros aggro deck that has vigilant creatures, right? So you're like attacking and convoking simultaneously. Yeah, so you don't lose value from tapping your creature because I already attacked with my vigilance. So I think, that's pretty cool. Quintoris, a lore master. I should really learn these names before I make a video, right? 5 mana, 3 generic with the Boros colors behind it, 1 red, 1 plains. A 3-powered, 5 toughness, legendary creature, Elephant Cleric that is a rare with vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, exile target non-land, non-creature card from your graveyard, creating a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Furthermore, we can pay 3, 1 generic, 1 red, 1 white, with a tap of the Lore Master, sacrificing a spirit as well, choosing a target card, exiled with Quintoris, and you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into the graveyard, put it into the bottom of its owner's library instead. I like that line. Not going into exile is nice. It's all right. I mean, it's a 5-drop. It's a little expensive, you know, when people are casting invokes. Yeah, on the fly pronunciation. Alablaster Host Sanctifier for 2 mana as a 2-power, 2 toughness creature Phyrexian cleric with lifelink. Finally, just like a vanilla card. This is just a common. Not bad, right? Especially if you're building like a budget Phyrexian tribal deck, I guess. Negate as a reprint for 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 blue, instant speed, common, counter target non-creature spell. I like a Johnny on the art here. That's pretty cool. Elspeth's Smite for 1 as an instant speed, uncommon. 1 planes, of course. Elspeth's Smite deals 3 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. If that creature would die, exile it instead. I like that. That seems pretty good. They do have to attack, but like that's just good value. It could be better if it also said draw a card. Could you imagine? Woo! Okay, so this is busted. Atali, Primal Conqueror for 7 mana, 5 generic, double red as a 7-powered, 7 toughness legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur that is rare. It will have trample, and when the Primal Conqueror enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. When it enters the battlefield, each player, you're exiling, they're exiling, and then you get to cast from both. Gross. Pay 9 with a Phyrexian Forest, 9 and 2 life or 10, transforming it at sorcery speed into the Primal Sickness. And it truly is. I'm going to be down with the Sickness, I'll tell you what. As an 11/11 with Trample and Indestructible, when it deals combat damage to a player, they gave that many poison counters. I win. Okay, sick. Moving on to the Invasion of New Phyrexia as a battle siege for 2 plus X within Azorius colors, 1 plains, 1 island as a mythic with 6 siege counters. When Invasion of New Phyrexia enters the battlefield, create X 2/2 white and blue knight creature tokens with vigilance. Cast this with Mondrak, baby. Let's go. Double down. Furthermore, if we do get rid of the 6 siege counters, which is a lot, we get Teferi, Akosa of Zalafur, 4 loyalty, legendary planeswalker, +1 ability, drawing 2 cards, then discarding 2 cards unless we discard a creature card. -2, you get an emblem with knights you control, get +1/+0, and have ward 1. -3, tap X creatures you control. When you do, shuffle target non-land permanent and opponent controls with mana value X or less into their library. And I actually quite like that. That's a nice ability. Pretty cool card to make the tokens as well. Hard to destroy, though. Moving on, we have the Miradin Avenged for 1 mana at instant speed. Destroying target creature that was dealt damage this turn. Draw a card. As an uncommon. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Instant speed, you know. This is kind of cool. I'm foreseeing in like a Rakdos deck. Like you do Brotherhood End. It wipes almost all of their cards, but they had like a 5-power creature that survived. Clean it up. You know, here's a destroy for 1. You know, maybe you've got a blocker, a really nice blocker that just deals 1 damage. This pairs well with that as well. It draws. I like it. Seal from Existence for 3 mana, 1 generic, double plains as an enchantment with ward 3. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. Farewell is still going to dunk on this, so good luck. Traumatic Revelation for 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 swamp, sorcery speed as another common card. Target opponent reveals their hand. You may choose a creature or battle card from it. If you do, that player discards that card. If you don't, incubate 3, which is pretty good. I like this. I do not mind this whatsoever. The incubate makes it quite playable. And then we've already seen these bad boys. And then a couple more cards here that we may not have reviewed yet. The Boon Bringer Valkyrie for 5 mana, 3 generic double plains as a 4-power, 4 toughness creature angel warrior. Backup 1. Again, applying the +1/+1 counter to either itself or another creature. If it's another creature, the other creature will get the following abilities. And in this case, flying, first strike, and lifelink. That's pretty good. Archpriest of Shadows for 5 mana as well. Also as a 4/4 creature, human warlock rare. Backup 1, Death Touch. Plus, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's a good ability to give to your friends. Oh, I don't know. Maybe like an unblockable creature? Botanical Brawler for 2 mana, 1 green, 1 white, Selesnya creature elemental warrior, 0 power, 0 toughness with trample, entering the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put onto another permanent you control, if it's the first time +1/+1 counters have been put on that permanent, this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on the Brawler. So you put a counter here, you put a counter there, you put a counter here, you put a counter there. The Brawler gets counters for each time. We love it. Halo Forager for 3 mana, 1 generic, within a blue and black as well. Dimir colors, 3 power, 1 toughness creature, fairy rogue with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay X. When you do, you may cast target instant or sorcery from your hand with mana value X from your graveyard with mana value X or less without paying its mana cost. And if this spell would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. It's crazy how little I read on these cards and still parse them appropriately. Nowhere does it say your hand. From your graveyard. Kami of Whispered Hopes for 3 mana, 2 generic, 1 forest as a 1/1 creature spirit. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a permanent you control, that many +1/+1 counters are put on that permanent instead, plus an additional 1. That's phenomenal. It can tap to add X mana of any color where X is its power as a non-legendary. So that is a card. Top 10 uncommon. Norn's Inquisitor for 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 plains as a 1/1 creature Phyrexian Knight. When Norn's Inquisitor enters the battlefield, incubate 2. Whenever another permanent you control transforms into a Phyrexian, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Not too shabby. Scrappy Bruiser, 3 generic, 1 red as a 3 powered 4 toughness creature, Raccoon Warrior. Now that is worth something, isn't it? Whenever Scrappy Bruiser attacks, up to 1 other target attacking creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample until the end of turn, returning that creature to its owner's hand at the end of combat. Could be good, could be bad. What you could do is grab their thing. You steal control, you attack, give it a buff, and then send it back to their hand. Then they've got to recast it. Merciless Reposing. Woof. I've embarrassed myself once more. 4 generic, double Swamp Skis as an instant speed uncommon. Exile target creature, incubate 3. That's so expensive. Here's the Incubator Tokens. Pay 2, transform it. And here is the Phyrexian it transforms into. Cool. We had commanders that I believe we already talked about. We talked about the Invasion to Zendikar in another video as well, I believe. For those of you who missed it, for 4 mana as a battle siege with 3 siege counters, entering the battlefield, searching your library for 2 basic lands, putting them into the battlefield, tapped and shuffle. Very good, in fact. Transforming into a 4/4 creature elemental with vigilance and haste. As long as it's on the battlefield, it is a land in addition to its other types, and you can tap it to add mana. We have Wrenn and Realmbreaker for 3 mana, 1 generic, double forest, legendary planeswalker Wrenn with 4 starting loyalty. Lands you control have tap to add mana of any color. Very, very, very good. +1, target land you control becomes a 3/3 with vigilance, hexproof, and haste until your next turn. It's still a land. -2, mill 3 cards, then you may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. Fantastic. -7, you get an emblem with you may play lands and cast permanent spells from your graveyard. Not shabby whatsoever. Archangel Elspeth for 4 mana, 2 generic, double plains, 4 starting loyalty as a legendary planeswalker Elspeth. +1, create a 1/1 soldier token with lifelink. -2, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. It becomes an angel in addition and gains flying. -6, return all non-land permanent cards from your graveyard with mana value 3 or less to the battlefield. Nice, dude. Proliferate that. Then we have some Lord of the Ring goodies. And finally, I wanted to make sure everyone's seen the Jin Gitaxias that was spoiled early. We have the Fairy Mastermind for 2 mana. Again, we've kind of already gone through this in its own video with Flash and Flying. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. We can pay 4. Each player draws a card, so we can force that ability. Shoutouts to Yuta for being the world champion. It's a 2/1 with Flying, right? With that Flash that we kind of talked about. We've got these goodies here as well that were leaked. Again, look for this video. We went through everything in depth, but we talked about Ellis Norn. I wanted to come back and talk about Jin Gitaxias. And, this is phenomenal. So these cards will transform and then back into themselves. Here's Jin Gitaxias' Saga, the Great Synthesis. Some of the most broken cards I've ever seen. So give these a really in-depth look. And, I'm curious if we're going to find more of them. One for each color, maybe. We've refreshed the page. There's no new spoilers. So, we're kind of just like gaining awareness currently as to what all the cards are, their strengths, their weaknesses. And, as the spoilers continue over the next week or two here, we'll have a better idea of what decks we'd like to build and where we're going to throw our wild cards, right? So thank you for watching. I know it was a brutal experience. My reading comprehension is just so low. But we'll get better. This is a great way for me to improve while, doing something I love. Anywho, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have an absolute magical day. We'll see you soon in the next. And do take care, like, comment, subscribe, all that. And I'll continue how to learn how to read here on the side for everybody, okay? Take care. We'll see you soon.